Hey gang, Bill Caskey here, 8 a.m. live, on time again today. Makes it about 3 days in a row I've been on time. That's pretty impressive. I'm glad you're joining me today. I always say this, but my listeners are awesome, and I get great comments, great feedback, great emails, and some of you I've talked to, actually had some calls with, and so I appreciate you reaching out. Today we're going to talk about a topic that is one of those that's a tool topic, tool time. It's a tool topic, and I want to share with you the idea of a checklist, especially when it comes to pre-call and post-call, because a lot of times you'll be rushing into a meeting, or maybe somebody will call you kind of out of the blue, or together your team and you will be preparing for a call, and I think this checklist might be helpful. A couple things. You can download the 5 Reasons document, 5reasons.com. Let me put that up here on the screen. Oh, that's not it. That's a secret one there. 5reasonsclients.com. It's got the 5 reasons you don't have enough customers. It's about messaging and mindset and marketing and things like that. So make sure you go download that. Also, you can pick up the Bill Caskey podcast on YouTube Podcast now. YouTube has a brand new podcast platform. And if you are apparently, I think I saw where 30% of the podcasts are listened to on YouTube, where people are doing other things. There is a video component. We're video recording all the podcasts now. So if you're interested, I know a lot of you listen to the Bill Caskey podcast. If you want to get it on YouTube, YouTube Music is also a place you can go get it. Let's see. So anyway, 5 Reasons Clients. I think that was it. So let's get into this. I was doing a program yesterday for a company, and we scheduled out a bunch of programs, and this was like the last in this series. It was the last in this quarter, and we went and did a review, which I always like to do at the end. And one of the things we reviewed is something that we hadn't done before, and I spaced it, and they were all kind of chiding me for like, wait a minute, this is good stuff. Why didn't we have this 9 months ago? Well, I overlooked it, but I won't again. I can tell you that much. So I wanted to share it with you today. And Atul Gawande, Atulgawande, wrote a book here many years ago called The Checklist Manifesto. And he's a researcher, I think, at Harvard, and he went around and looked at our healthcare system and what hospitals were really doing the best in terms of patient care and not losing patients when they come into the hospital. And he did this whole book on the Checklist Manifesto. And hospitals that were doing well basically had checklists. They understood exactly what needed to happen every day. Every person understood what needed to happen for cleanliness and room care and patient care and all that stuff. So the Checklist Manifesto is where I kind of got this idea of, well, it seems like in sales and in business, almost everything we do consists of a checklist. It's just like going to the grocery store. You wouldn't try to remember 19 things. You'd have a checklist. You'd have a grocery list. And it's the same thing, I think, in the sales process. We need checklists. And so I'm going to share with you something I shared with them yesterday. And if it can help you, then please use it. You can take a screenshot of this if you want. I don't have a handout or anything, but you can take a screenshot. And the idea here, I call it the post-call checklist, but it's either. So let's say you have a meeting with a client or a prospect, and it's a first meeting, first call. I've got one today later on, 10:30 or something, with actually a gentleman who I don't know if he's been watching these or not, and I've always got a checklist, not so I can drive anything through, just so I don't forget the important things. And I think that we don't use checklists enough. And so here is a post-call checklist. Once again, it could be pre-call. Let me explain to you what each of these items are. Obviously, there could be more. Your business might be such that there's 7 other things you need to make sure you cover on the first meeting, but these are the first ones. Number 1 is just the upfront agreement. Just, do you have an agreement about what's going to happen on this call? And I've got a client, they call it statement of intent. Are you able to state your intent? Something like, I appreciate you inviting me in today. Here's what I thought we could do. Let's ask each other some questions, and let's decide at the end if there's any reason to go forward. My intent today is to A, B, C, D, E. So a statement of intent is part of that upfront agreement, and I think it's useful. Just make sure it's in there. Again, that's why it's on the checklist. So I call it post-call checklist. I probably prefer a pre-call, but you can use it both. Number 2, company story, your story. Now, you've got to be careful with stories. Everybody's talking about stories and why we all need stories, which I agree, but you can overstory people too. So if you've got a 30-minute call with someone, first call, then I think you can tell either the product story, how the product came to be, your story, how you came to be in this position, or the company story, what has happened over the past few years with the company, when was it founded. I wouldn't spend 10 minutes in a 30-minute call in stories. So I gave them the choice here. In this case, they like the personal story, and I do too. And we haven't done much on that here on the live shows, but that's one of the things we do in all of our programs. I want your personal story to be clear, concise, communicative, able to be understood in a short amount of time, because sometimes the personal story is the connective tissue that makes it all work. Everybody wants to be unique in the marketplace, and sometimes our products are not unique. I mean, there might be some elements of it that are, but your story is unique, and how you tell it is unique. I could have the same story exactly you do, obviously not same story you do, but if I tell it in a slightly different way and you tell it in a slightly different way, it's different. So stories are very important, but make sure that you leave space in your process for stories. All right. Number 3 is sharing the process. Sharing the process is really just, are you sharing your sales process? And if you are in a short sales cycle, like let's say 2 or 3 calls, then I would also share the solution process. Once you engage with us, if we do, let me tell you what that looks like. Step 1 is A, step 2 is B, step 3 is C. So it's not just the sales process, it's the solution process as well. But if you don't share the sales process, what makes you think people know what to do next or know how to follow it? And salespeople are generally awful at this. Number 1, we're awful at creating a process. And number 2, we're awful at sharing what we've created. So I would guess that probably 10 to 20% of salespeople even have a process that's documented. And we might even do that tomorrow. That's documented, that's clear, that's good for the prospect, not just good for you. It's got to be good for them too. Remember, our intent here is to help them solve a problem. Part of your process should be the understanding of the problem. If you don't have a process, they're not going to tell you what the problem is. There's not. So you need to have a process. That's number 3. Number 4. Do you have the questions to ask to find the problem that they're coming to you with, the goals, the desires they have for their life? Are you able to help them clearly articulate to you their vision for what they want this solution to be, or what they want when they want their problems to be solved? There's a lot here. This is probably the essence of the whole call. If I were to pie chart this would probably be 50% of the pie. So even though number 4 is just a line listing, the fact is it's a big part of the sales process. So do you have your bank of questions? Do you, and again, a lot of salespeople don't. I'd say 10, 15, 20% have the questions laid out. If you would go into my Google Doc, I've got a questionnaire that I've got a process there for new corporate clients. So if you are interested in bringing me into your company, this is not a pitch, by the way, just if people are, I've got a checklist of what I go through. So on the first call, here are the 7 things I cover. Here's the questions I ask. Here's the stories I tell. So I'm never at a loss for what to do. So I don't have to prepare for the call. I've already prepared for the call. Now, I might do a little research on the company a little bit, check out their website, but I don't want to get too soiled by what they say on their website, because that's rarely true. It's really facts. I mean, it's all, websites are just built by a marketing department or a web designer, and it's not built by the sales team usually. So I've got all this in a Google Doc, and I just print it off and I go through it. I make some notes on it, and it's just a way to do it. It's just an easy way to do it. So finding the pain, the goals, and desires is important. Here's number 5. Are there any yellow flags that you need to address? And by yellow flags, I mean, are there any situations? Do you know anything about this client from a prior relationship? Do you have any concerns about your product in this field? Are there any things that you have learned about the company and the research that you've done, the small amount of research you've done, that cause you to say, I gotta bring this up? Yellow flags also happen when you are on a call with somebody, you're face to face. I don't care where it is or what part of the process it is. They say something to you that causes you to say, I'm not sure I answered that properly, or I'm not sure what they were asking, what they were really asking, or I wonder what they meant by that comment of, I don't like the clothes you're wearing, or whatever the comment is. You've got to make sure you go back and check those things out. Yellow flags happen verbally, they happen non-verbally, they happen in your gut, your intuition. I had one of my clients that I was wrapping up this program with yesterday. I always ask when I first start, victory laps. What happened over the past couple of weeks that you are proud of, or that worked, or that didn't work? Just let's hear some stories. And this group is great. They always have stories. And this guy said, well, I had finished the second call. They're usually in a 3 or 4 call cycle. I'd finished the second call with this prospect. And he said, I was feeling like it wasn't going to happen. I was feeling like I had either said something to cause him, to back off, or maybe I was too eager. It's this guy that was saying that was really good. And he's very self-aware. And he said, so the yellow flag for me there was, things aren't going according to plan. I think it's over. I don't want to continue to chase this dude if it's over. So he brought it up. And he said, John, I'm sat here for, a half hour 2 weeks ago, and then we're on the phone here for an hour today. And, I kind of get the feeling that, that this is not as interesting to you as it was at first, or I'm maybe not the right guy. And the guy shot back and said, look, this is a big decision for me. This means a lot to my family. They're in the creative wealth planning business, wealth planning, not creative planning. It means a lot, and I'm kind of confused right now. So no, don't take my apparent disinterest that you're not in the running. He said, to be honest with you, you're the obvious choice. You come recommended, and I've really liked our interaction. I know I've got to make a decision. I will make it the next week. You're looking good, or whatever he said at the end. A week later, guy calls back, says, you're in. I'm going to award you the business. It was a several $1 million deal. But had my client not addressed the yellow flag in the room that he felt in his gut, who knows what would happen? Maybe he still would have gotten it. I don't know. But I've got to address these yellow flags. You do too. Okay, here's the next one. Did you go deep? Or if it's a pre-call, how will you go deep? And go deep just means, don't stop at a superficial problem that the prospect says they have. So if I were to ask you, well, tell me a little bit about your business and why you're interested in coaching or training. Might be a question I would ask on the first call. And you say, well, I'm interested because I've been listening to your podcast and some of your lives, and I downloaded your ebook, and I'm just feeling like it's time to kind of reinvent myself and get to another level. And I've been doing the same thing for 20 years. And I think it's time to just kind of refurbish myself, skill up. Well, I can leave it at that and say, okay, great. Well, let me tell you a little bit about the program, but that's not the time to pivot because I don't know anything. He just gave me a bunch of vapid words. Is vapid the right word? Vapid words. I guess vapid could be the vapid words. He just gave me a bunch of nothing burgers. And that language, I've got to dissect a little bit. So I'm not going to say, well, you didn't give me anything there, sir. I might say, well, Well, good. Well, let's talk about some of that today. If you're okay with that. Yeah, I'm okay with it. Okay, great. Well, why don't we start with when you say refurbishing, blah, 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 what do you mean? And we'll go down these little paths and we'll find where the real issue is, because somewhere there's a pony in here somewhere. Somewhere down those paths, there is an issue that he or she is not willing to bring up right up front. And so as you go down this path, you've got to be mindful and a hawk and a really good listener to hear things as they're telling you. If you don't go deep, deep is where all the action is. I'm not talking about therapy deep here. I'm just talking about go deep to make sure you understand not just the problem, but the root of the problem, the cause of the problem, the impact of the problem. I want you to understand all of that. You might not get to that in meeting number one. You might not. Okay. So, and then I left a blank there at the end. You can, again, take a screenshot. I'll leave it up for a second or two. Take a screenshot of that. Did you go deep? And again, you've got probably more in your business. Whoops, what the heck happened there? You've probably got more in your business that you might do on a checklist, but I wanted to give you those. And hopefully that's been helpful. Tomorrow's our last day of our 31-day March Madness. Oh, no, I can't use that. I get in trouble licensing. Our March Live every day at 8. We'll talk next Monday or tomorrow about whether we want to continue this. I really like it. I hope you do. And there's always something to talk about here. For those of you who are interested in this kind of thing, as I said earlier, we're using a Shure microphone. Some of you are geeks and want to know the setup. I've got a Logitech 920 camera. We use StreamYard to stream everything. It allows you to stream to 3 different locations: YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and I think there's some others. We just use 3. So anyway, hope that's helped you. Use the checklist. Just get a checklist for everything. It's going to help you. It's going to help you make